Live from Los Angeles at Sinai Temple, this is Rabbi Erez Sherman and Rabbi on the Sidelines, a podcast where we speak about the intersection of sports and faith. This morning, we are joined by Coach Jim Boeheim, 45 years at Syracuse University, NCAA champion 2003, member of the Basketball Hall of Fame, 33 NCAA tournaments, 5 Final Fours, advocate for Coaches versus Cancer, the special needs community, and most importantly, just a wonderful mentor and leader to so many. Coach, it's so wonderful to have you. Thanks for joining us in snowy Syracuse, I hear.
Yeah, we just had our normal April snow shower. It's clearing up. I think it'll be all gone tomorrow. But yeah, we're used to that. You know, you live in Syracuse as you have. You know it can snow in April, sometimes even May, but then it's usually good after May.
I know my kid is 9 years old, and when it drizzles, they put on a winter coat. And I said, you got to go back to Euclid and show them what it's about. So first of all, I want to thank you for not just being here, but the presence on the court and off the court as well. You actually got me, you don't know this, but through rabbinical school, because my summer job was working at the Coach Boeheim camp at the Dome for 5 summers. So lots of prayers were going on at those wonderful courts as well. But we're going to start based on what you've done. You've done everything in the basketball world. National champion, Final Fours, U.S. Olympic, every accomplishment you have done. But what I am so grateful for on a personal level in my family is what you have done off the court for the special needs community as well. As of course, you know, my brother Eyal, of blessed memory, was an amazing, not just fan, but literally you welcomed him into the family of Syracuse basketball. What motivates you off the court to do those things that, to be honest, ESPN and all those networks, they just don't see?
Well, the great thing that you get, especially in a smaller town like Syracuse, you're the only game in town, and you are blessed as we are in Syracuse with 30,000 fans coming to our games. The support that we get from the community is unbelievable. I mean, we get a couple thousand students, but we get 28,000 Syracuse fans who live, you know, pretty much in the Syracuse area, a little bit Rochester, maybe a few in Albany. But when you get that kind of support, you have to give back to the community. I think that whether you're a basketball program or a business in a community, you get so much from the community. If you're a business, the workers you have that make your business successful, people that buy your products. And I think we're all really obligated to give back to our community. And we've been able to do it through a lot of different ways. And we started with Coaches versus Cancer, which we still support. But now through our foundation for 10 years, we've given $6 million back out just in this community. The good thing about having your own foundation is that it stays, we can dictate where it goes, the money goes, and all of our money stays here in Syracuse. Some very little small part for cancer research, but most of it for groups that work with kids. So last year we gave, I think, in the neighborhood of $600,000 out to 50 different organizations. Wow. So we give some organizations $5,000 or $3,000, and it gets them. It's a small organization that's a lot of money for them. In other cases, we maybe give up to $50,000 or $100,000 to an organization, but generally they're smaller grants, and we can touch more kids with after-school programs, with summer camp programs that, you know, particularly now, there's not much funding for. So to be able to do that in your own community, and the payback for me is because they support us in our basketball program. So it's really an obligation to raise that money. We're having our gala this Saturday, which is virtual. We'll have people from all over the country. We'll have 90 auction items. We'll have Syracuse fans from all over the country bidding on stuff. So all that money goes right back in here. We have one part-time staffer, and that's all. The only expense that we have. We don't have office expense. We take a little corner of a closet here in the Mellow Center, and we use that for just once a week. And so we have no expenses. So people know they give us their money. It's going directly to kids in our community. So, but to answer your question, I mean, this is why we get so much support. And so we've been able to put back. I mean, we do a luncheon for ladies, which is kind of fun for Make-A-Wish, and we raise $100,000 at that luncheon every year. And it's kind of a fun event. The players go. We have 600 ladies there, and no better organization than the Make-A-Wish organization.
Absolutely, actually, and we've been a recipient of that as well. And so you spoke about the dollars that go to the organizations. What about the relational piece as well? I'm going to show a picture real quick that you might remember or might not. Give me one moment here. Actually, I don't see that come up. I'm sorry. But about the kids, I know there are a couple of kids that your team has adopted in 1996. Actually, I was honored with Eyal to come to the Final Four practice, and he drew a picture with his mouth. And I vividly remember you stopped practice, brought all of the players over. John Wallace, Otis Hill, Donovan was on that team. And I remember you told the guys, we're going to the Meadowlands tomorrow, but this is what it's about. What are those lessons that you teach those, if you wish, teenagers and college kids on the court, that they're doing so much more than Buddy hitting all those threes, which of course we love just as well?
Yeah, the great thing is we take the kids, our players, to the hospital. We take them to the cancer ward. Obviously kids in tough positions. The Make-A-Wish luncheon we bring our kids to, and there's many Make-A-Wish kids there. And we bring to practice kids all the time. We've adopted a kid who is a special needs kid, and he comes to practice most days. And we've had 2 of those kids over the last few years. And it's a great reward. It's something that our players really learn something from, I think. That's one of the reasons we do it. We help those kids, but I think our players get to understand something. We went to a school just last week down in the inner city, and just to see the kids there, how happy they were to see the players. I mean, those are all good experiences for our players. They need to learn to be involved in their community. We all need to learn. It's part of going to college. There's a lot of college kids now that are really involved in the community, that do work in the inner city with kids. So the more we do that, I mean, it's and you really get more from it than you ever put into it. I mean,
absolutely.
It's amazing. We do a dinner for Boys and Girls Club, and they bring the top kids from the Boys and Girls Club in the Syracuse area. They sit with our players, they ask questions, they get autographs. I mean, those are big moments, and it's all part of being involved in your own community. To me, most coaches do this. There's not a lot of recognition, but most coaches are really involved in their communities. And, we have a platform. So, we raise more money than any organization in town because our fans are, especially when we win, when we have a good year, they give a little bit more money.
We are with you no matter what, All the years that you said fill the seats, I promise you, believe me, my brother was there for every game. I'm pushing through the snow. And I know also Julie would say this as well, and especially in the Coach versus Cancer, or the basketball last year, she mentioned that wheelchair section is near and dear to her heart as well. And being part of that section, just like it's like a family like no other.
Well, Julie's came here and got her master's in the education school working with kids with special needs. That's what she did and does. And she runs the foundation. She's the prime mover, prime worker, prime fundraiser in our family. And she's done an amazing job, getting our foundation to where it is today. And which I never thought would get to this point where we could raise up to $1 million a year. So it's been really through her work that this has all happened.
So here's a short clip of the basketball from last year. We hope that you will join in this year. And this is exactly the work that Coach Boeheim is speaking
To do
about.
anything for 44 years takes tenacity and passion. To be a coach for 44 years, well, something's got to be wrong with you, really.
The first time I met Coach, he was 30 years old, and he was assistant coach recruiting me. The next time I saw him, he was the head coach, and I'd signed to come to Syracuse. It took a very short period of time to understand that he knew basketball really well. That plaid coat followed us around. It was our good luck charm.
I don't know what Jim did with that plaid jacket. It was a good look, though, huh? He's come a long way.
We'd have a morning practice really early, and then Coach would say, listen, I want you all to get together, and then we'd go over to Upstate Medical Center to the Terminal Children's Ward. Coach would have us all together. It was just like a big family. It was a great way for us to bond also as a team. We played checkers, we played Monopoly, we played these games, and it was so funny because we never won. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting taken to the cleaners by these kids. I'll never forget the first time one of the nurses just came over and was giving us all a big hug because she said, these kids haven't had this much fun since they've been up here.
So can you go through that, what you do? I know that's not just when Rosie was there, but really it's every single year. You take the guys to Upstate, and like I said, there have been calls to your office when we were in Upstate, and within minutes, there was a player by our side, and that mattered. Take us through those visits.
Yeah, I mean, they're heart-wrenching. When we first started to go, it was, a long time ago, 45 years ago. And in fact, I think we went when I was an assistant coach. So, and you see these kids, and they're in bed, they're hooked up to IVs. Some are able to get around, some can't leave their bed, and it's heartbreaking. And it's just, but it brings something to their day. I mean, I've met kids even in the last couple of years who were on those wards who survived and who are still alive. That's 45 years ago. But it's a big day in their lives that we're there. And because going through cancer treatment, there's nothing worse than that you can see watching a kid go through that. And the spirit they have, the toughness they have. It is inspiring to you and inspiring to our players. These kids, they're not complaining about being tired. They don't complain about, well, we're having too many practices. I've got too much work to do. They're smiling, they're happy, and they're, getting cancer treatments every day. So it's a good lesson for our players. It's inspiring for me.
Absolutely.
Go there and see these kids.
So actually, each coach and each person that I speak to. Last week, Coach Doherty was on the show. Next week, Coach Martelli, obviously a good friend of yours with the Coaches versus Cancer as well. Faith in sports. That's a premise that I ask, right? Not many coaches have been on a podcast with a rabbi. Big East, full of Catholic schools. Coach Doherty told some funny stories about 4-letter words that he used on the bench, and in front of the priest, it got a little dicey. But is there an aspect of faith on the court, in the dome, in the locker room, between players and coaches?
Well, it's interesting. We started out with a Catholic priest was our team chaplain for the first 20 years I coached. Father Charles, who's famous in our local community, was a very talented man, put on plays, and Broadway type plays, quality. And was with us 20 years, and now we have a FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, guy with us, and he comes to practice every day, and he travels with us, and he sits with the players, he counsels the players. It's good for the players to have another voice, another ear to go to. Coaches are good. We do our job. We're constantly talking to our players, but it's good to have somebody outside the coaching fraternity to talk to. So I think that's a very important part. Young kids today get thrown a lot of things. There's a lot of stuff going their ways with social media, with all the different things that are there. And I think it's really good for them to have another voice, somebody else that they can talk to. And that's important. That's a very important part of their development as a player, that they have that opportunity and we have players of all different, levels of what their faith is.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to give them that opportunity to see what's there and to develop it as they move forward, just as it's important to develop their basketball side, their social side, their academic side. That's all part of, we get a kid who's 17 years old and we're going to have him hopefully for 4 years, not as much today in the world, but you want to have a good influence on your players in terms of off the court as much as their development on the court. And so all of that is all part of being a college coach, and really always has been, but it's, I think, even more important in today's world because the players are pulled in so many different directions.
Actually, and the Jewish players, some of that you had over the years, ended up at our synagogue in our community as well. So it's been a wonderful partnership as well. There was one time that you actually said the rabbi makes more suggestions at your practices than he does at the synagogue. So there has been a rabbi on the sidelines before.
You get a lot of help, and it's fortunate that I don't hear most of that help.
Are you familiar with Yeshiva University and their basketball program right now? They're actually.
I'm not that familiar with what they're doing.
Yeah, so actually, Mike Sweetney, Georgetown Hoya, is one of the assistant coaches there right now.
He was great in our league.
Yeah, and they actually have the longest win streak in NCAA because there's no tournament for D3. 36 wins right now. And their balance of faith is really, really fascinating. And just as you spoke about the priests being involved, and here's Mike going actually to a very religious institution, and they're doing some amazing things as well. One guy's actually possibly going to be drafted in the draft as well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So you wrote this book a couple years ago, Bleeding Orange. If you haven't read it, definitely grab a copy. The insides of Coach Boeheim and really what makes you go. And you really speak really highly of your parents and your father. And you spoke about fear and that back in the day there was a fear, but that fear hasn't gone away. And you've been on every biggest stage, and you say every moment you still have that fear.
Absolutely.
What does that mean, and what does that feel like when we're watching on TV?
Well, before every game, you're worried about what's going to happen. You're going to do the right things. Your team's prepared. You're always worried about that stuff. And when you stop worrying about it and you don't care that much, you should not probably be in it anymore. But it's always there. I think there's actually less fear when you're playing because you know what you can do and you feel confident. It's just you. But when you're a coach, you're relying on all these other guys and the players and the referees and all the other things that go into being a coach. So it's just there's a constant fear that, to get this thing right, get through this and make sure we do the right things and make sure you do your job and make sure that the players are prepared to do what they want to do and be successful. Because as a coach, you want your players to be successful. There's no happiness when you lose. I mean, you can want to play, you can enjoy playing all you want, but if you don't win, there's no really happiness for players. That's just the way it is, and it's not a bad thing. You want to compete, you want to play at a high level, and you want to be successful. So when you're coaching your sons, like I did this year, next year.
Yeah, two of them. Family reunion. We're excited about that.
Well, you want your sons to be successful. You want them to play well. You want them to win and be happy. And as a coach, you want your players and your team to be happy, and your fans. You want them to be happy. And you really buy into that. That's what coaching's about. It's just there's in coaching and in sport, there's no gray area. It's pretty much black and white. You win or you lose. And a lot of other things you do. Well, we did pretty good this year. We did this, or we did. No, you either win or you lose in sports. So it doesn't matter if you came close. It doesn't matter if, in a lot of businesses you can do really, really well. You didn't even win. You maybe not be the best, but you did really well and you had a good, successful year. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, in coaching, you win the game, you lose. As simple as that. And in most things in life, you can be very successful, and you don't necessarily have to get to that point where it's all or nothing. But in sports, it's pretty much all or nothing, and it's just part of the deal.
So a lesson that your mom taught you when you were a walk-on at Syracuse with Dave Bing, your roommate, Hall of Famer, just amazing, amazing man, was she told you, and I quote, "You don't have to be as good as him. You just have to be as good as all the others."
Yeah.
What does that look like in today's world with obviously the transfer portal and everybody wanted to be better than the other? What does that look like in terms of would you be able to teach that lesson to your own kids today?
It's difficult today because it's a short-term thing. If you're not being successful right now, you leave. You go someplace else. And the problem, and what we're going to find out, and we knew in the past, was just always a number of transfers. There was a couple hundred. And 100 didn't do well. They didn't find a better place. Maybe they weren't in a good place, but maybe it would have worked out, whereas it didn't work out for 100, 120, and maybe it worked out for some. But now we have 1,400 players transferring.
That's crazy.
And it's not going to work out for half of them probably. And would they have been better where they were? Well, that's a hard question. I think when a guy's not playing at all, like we had 2 guys transfer last year, they weren't playing. So they theoretically would go someplace better. It didn't work for them. They didn't play more. But we're going to have 2 or 3 guys leave that were playing and would play a lot here next year. Will they play where they go? There's no answer to that. We'll see. But it's just, sometimes it's better to work through things. But if, of the 1,400 players out there, there's 700 or 800 of them, it's not going to work out. Mm-hmm. Now, you can say, well, they did what they felt they wanted to do. And so you can say that's a good thing. But we'll see how it all works out at the end. It's a difficult time because you can't develop the continuity with your team that you'd like to. 2 or 3 guys developing to where they would really play big roles, and now they're gone. So we have to bring somebody else in who's new to the program, and we'll have to fit them into what we're doing. And coaches will make this adjustment. I think coaches will be fine. Duke, Kentucky, top schools, they're going to lose play. They're going to get players. We're going to get players. We'll make it work. Will it work for all of the players that left? It won't, but we'll find out down the road. But it's a different time in college basketball. And when the NIL comes in, players will be able to make money. That's a good thing in a lot of ways for players to be able to capitalize on their internet, on their different things that they can do, their images. But, do we really want these guys to be professionals? They're 18 years old, 19.
Hard.
I always say, well, coaches make a lot of money, so players should make a lot. Well, players are 18 years old. I didn't make any money until I was 35 years old, and coaching, I really didn't make any then until I was really 45 or 50. I mean, it's ludicrous to say players should be getting money. They're kids. They're going to make money, and that's good. I mean, before they had a full $70,000 scholarship and some meal money, so really kids were getting $1,000 a month and meals and free education, which isn't bad. It's really not bad. But now
I just paid off my loans 2 years ago, so it's good. It's good.
College athletes don't have to pay off any loans. They got money all the way through, and so I mean, the college athletes. And you remember this: there's 3,500 college basketball players. 3,400 of them aren't going to play professionally. Exactly. So 3,400 college athletes, basketball players, got a free education and have no bills, nothing to pay back, and they were never going to be pros. And they had a great experience of playing in college. We charter, we fly everywhere. It's tutors, everything you need, weight training, everything. A scholarship's really worth about $150,000 when you count all the extra things that are thrown in there. So I think kids have it good, but they're going to make more money. They're going to be able to capitalize, and I think it's great. It's fine. My buddy's share of something in the social media thing was at like 47 when he was in this run. He made the tournament. If he'd have been getting money this year from the internet, he probably would have made a lot of money from that. I don't know how it all works, but I know it works. That you get more views on your Instagram or whatever it is, you can monetize that. And so, I mean, that'll be good. It'll just be so different as we move forward. And it's still important for players to realize they've got a great opportunity. They're going to get a great education. And for the most part, kids do. There's a myth that the good college players don't go to school, and that's just not true. We graduate almost all of our players that stay 4 years. We have guys that have left early and are coming back to take courses. So they do get education. Even if you only got 2 years of a college education, that's better than none. And,
that's true. That's
and
true.
Most of them will try to finish. So it's a different time, but it's a fun time in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of things to navigate. And I like doing it because it's challenging. It always has been challenging, but it's still fun to get a team together, get them to play together. We struggled during the year. We were young. We weren't quite able to get it to where we wanted to the end of the year. And then we played great at the end of the year and got in the tournament, played great. So it was a great experience. But every year is different. We're starting over next year. We have a lot of new players. And I think we'll be pretty good. I think we'll be a good team. We got a lot more size, and we have more veteran players than we've had in a long time. We'll have 3 or 4 seniors, a couple of juniors, which is the most kind of veteran team we've had in a long time.
So you said just what you said before, that things change, but you have that energy every year. We have a tradition that says the old shall be renewed and the new shall be made holy. And I think you do an amazing job. You step on that court every November, and it's like you're doing it for the first time. And that renewed energy is amazing for all of us to see. And like you said, you bring just strength to so many people. One last person that influenced in your life is your dad. And within our tradition, the highest thing that can be done is actually accompany a loved one to the resting place of eternity. And your dad was a mortician. And I know, you joke about it in the book that it's in your home and everything like that. And as a child, you're around that. But what type of impact did that have, just going back to the first question that I asked, in terms of the giving back and obligation and watching your dad be in that business, if you wish?
Well, it's a tough business. It really is. And, it was in our home, so you saw it every day. And it hardens you a little bit to the idea of death and to, all of that. It does when you live it every day. And took bodies out, picked up bodies when I was 14 years old. So, it's just something you're used to. My father was interesting. He was a tough guy. Him and I clashed a lot. And my mother had to smooth it over as much as possible. But he was very competitive. He made me competitive. We batted. Everything we did was competitive. Card game, a poker, a ping pong game, a pool game. Everything was competitive. He pushed me. He didn't want to lose. I didn't want to lose. And he made me the competitor that I am. There's no question about it. He just had that competitive gene. My mother was a better athlete, probably better at a lot of games than either of us were, but she didn't even care. You won. So even when you're not, you don't care about the outcome. She won the club championship in golf one year, and she felt bad for the lady. I said, "Well, you won." She literally didn't care. She really did, and that's unusual. She would win. She'd try to win. She would, she won a lot, and but at the end, she really didn't care, and that's highly. You don't see that too much in somebody that is good and plays to win, and yet really doesn't care. And my father, we just cared about winning, so we're different.
So I'm sitting down the street here from UCLA. What do you think of that run right there, from the last 4 into the final 4?
Well, it's amazing. Michigan State really should have won the game probably in the very first game, and UCLA pulled it out, and then they just got going. And what a difference that one little thing makes. And now you go there, and they played great basketball. It wasn't a fluke. They were, I saw them play early in the year because we played San Diego State. San Diego State, I think, beat UCLA by 20 or 25. I don't know what it was. And the way Mick Cronin brought that team around, he's a great coach. We coached against him many times in the old Big East. A great coach and different. different style. And I don't think UCLA thought it was going to. The fans didn't think it would be that successful. He's a different guy. He's going to be defense and it's going to be toughness. But you know what? Fans like to win. And all those fans at UCLA that were skeptical, they're all on board now. They're all on board until they don't win. But, I mean, they're on board now because they won. And that's what – in coaching, it's simple. I tell coaches all the time, they ask me, we talk, and young coaches, what do you have to – well, I said two things. You have to get good players, and you have to win. If you do those two things, nothing else matters.
Oh, it's so true. Well, a lot of Bruins fans watching here, and actually a lot of Trojans fans too. So Pac-12 totally coming up. And
they came on big time this year. My son and I, Jimmy, we always knock them. We talk about them. And then at the end of the year, we said, well, we were wrong this year for sure. The league played great. I mean, you can't – I like to see what you do on the court. I mean, in the tournament, because the Big Ten was the number one all year long, and they didn't do much in the tournament. And the Pac, 12 was not good, and there they come. They were the best league in the tournament, and that's important. It's not the only thing, but that's very important. But it was fun to see the tournament play out. And Baylor and Gonzaga were the two best teams, and as it turns out, Baylor really was the best team. They just were a tremendous team. If they hadn't had the COVID issue, they probably would have gone undefeated. They were just knocked back for a couple of weeks, but it was Mark Few is a really good friend of mine. I get along well with Scott Drew as well, but Mark Few's been a friend of mine for a long time. He had a great team, but there was just literally nothing he could have done. Baylor was just better. They just got after him. I knew it was going to be a tough game because Houston's the best defensive team we've seen.
That was crazy. Yeah.
We were playing really good offense, and we could do nothing against them. We had opportunities, we just didn't finish things. And we had trouble scoring inside. And, but when Baylor just took them apart, I knew that Gonzaga was in trouble.
So last question, going totally away from basketball, but in the news, the Kentucky Derby. A horse is a long shot, I believe, with Adam Weissman. Maybe some prayers for this horse. Tell us what Kentucky Derby, how's that going to turn out, and what's your involvement in that?
Well, I believe in prayers, but prayers will not help this horse.
Prayers help ourselves, not the horse.
Yeah, they'll help ourselves. They are not going to help us. This horse is the last horse in the Kentucky Derby, and about 5 or 6 horses had to drop out before he got in. And I own a couple tail hairs on this horse. That's about how much I've got in it. But it'll be fun. We're going to go down there and enjoy. The Kentucky Derby's great. It's a fun event. We're taking some of our friends down there. So we'll have a good time. But this horse will need a lot of help, trust me, to even get in the mix there for a little while. There's some doubt that the horse can make it all the way, but I think it will.
Well, we will be definitely praying for that horse. This Saturday night, April 24th on cnycentral.com, you can watch wherever you are. The basketball, one of the premier events in Central New York, raising lots of amazing dollars for Coaches versus Cancer, and really doing the good work within the Syracuse community, in the basketball community, and beyond. Hopefully this morning, lots of Bruins fans were converted to Orange fans as I bring the Orange pride here. There's 2 things that I miss, Coach, about Syracuse. It is the Carrier Dome and your team, and a slice of varsity pizza. So when you are back out in LA with a buddy or training, we hope you visit us here at Sinai Temple, and we will look forward to seeing you then. Rabbi, on the sidelines next week, Coach Phil Martelli, associate head coach of Michigan. Amazing, amazing man at St. Joe's for many years. And next Tuesday, the president of Team Israel Olympic baseball team, Peter Kurtz, as they vie for a medal in Tokyo. Thank you to Coach Jim Boeheim, Syracuse University, Hall of Fame 2003 national champion, 45 years, 5 Final Fours, 33 NCAA tournaments. But in our tradition, Coach, we say a mensch, just a truly a good person. Coach, thanks so much for having us.
Thanks for being.